Okay. I'm going to be going over how I set up and organize a project. And we're going to be working on a song from a band called Goliath. It is called Fall from Grace. So, starting out, let me make sure I already got it. Yeah. So, create a file on my local system. And I'm now typically you would just bring in all of your audio files, but in this case, I'm going to bring in not my audio files. I almost did it anyway. I'm going to bring in a MIDI file. We're going to create a new project. I'm going to now this MIDI file. This is the project. This MIDI file is, let me go ahead and close out that other project. This has my tempo. It also has all of the MIDI information for drums. There's the kick, a snare, which I may or may not use, as well as a bass and toms. So I'm going to go ahead and create. I'm going to send these to a folder to hide them. And I am also going to get rid of these rack instruments. I hate the rack instruments. We do not need to see them. And I'm going to get rid of this MIDI. We're not going to need it just yet. And now is where I'm going to bring in my audio files. I was going to do a song from Doth, but here, let me show you why I didn't do it on this at least. So I'm sure if anybody watches this at all, they're mildly interested in anything I do. Oh, it's not there. Where the hell is it? There are 193 tracks. And I was like, you know what? That doesn't exactly seem like a chill, mix. That's a little too much legwork. Insert objects in one track, different tracks. Okay. I'm also going to split my project window because I want to have that up there at all times. Now, I did kind of look around at these audio files and they are kind of mix match. They are all over the place. And just to make sure that my audio levels are not all out of whack, I'm going to hit play. If it's loud, I'm going to bring it down. That's about as loud. Okay, I think that's about as loud as it gets. So, I have a shortcut set up that automatically creates a bus and a folder for all of the tracks that are selected. And I will be using that a lot. In my case, I'm on Windows, so it's Control Alt 9 on the number pad. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of, I want audio channels, and I do want groups here. This is just going to be the audio tracks, and this will make sense in a minute. I don't need this. And then this mix window will be only, I'm not recording anything, so I don't need my inputs, which I'm using voice meter, so it's not even my actual interface. I do not need my audio files. I currently do not need my instrument channels yet. I'm just going to want groups and output. And we'll get rid of that. Let's go ahead and bring this over because I do know that I will want it there. Okay, so let's start here. We know that that is drums. Let's just go through drums. I've already listened. I know that the U87 and the Royer microphones are room mics. Now, I also learned that Roy H and Roy R is Roy Hat and Roy Ride. So from a drummer's perspective, the ride typically is on the right side of the drum kit. Hat is on the left for a normal, like, right-handed drummer. So I'm going to go through that. I don't know what these are, so let's see. Okay, so that's drums too. So let's get as many of our drums as we can get in one. Kick sub, I'm assuming. You know what, let's check. Yeah, kick sub. There's more, there's snare top. Snare room. So I'm not going to put the reverse cymbals in here, and that'll make sense in a minute. There's my snare bottom. My snare reverses. I don't even think there's a snare verb on here. Sound effects. Tom 2. Top. Tom 3 top. The Thunder Toms. I think that's a hilarious name. So this, I just hit Control Alt 9, and in creating a group bus right now, I want it to be stereo. Currently it's going to come, actually, you know what? Let's reverse that. We want literally everything. Let's go ahead and just make a mix bus, which I guess right now doesn't matter. Okay. I just screwed myself. I shouldn't have done that. I just made more work. So let's do everything I just did again. Snare top. Guitar DIs. Snare room. Choir. Snare bottom. Now, and I'm going to be moving these around inside. Snare verb, which I don't think there was audio on. Toms. find out what subdest is. I think that's... Okay. Drums. Now, because it made a folder, I can do this. Which I'm going to go ahead and color code this as I go. Make sure I don't have any audio files selected. Oop. Danny. My brain thinks blue for drums. I don't care what your brain thinks, because your brain isn't doing this. That should be blue right now, but it's not. What is going on here? Oh, that's my bus. Okay. Now, let's get rid of the mix. Let's give our bass DI. Something else that's really cool about this. Oh, bastard. Is they provided DI signals for everything. So it kind of opens up the creativity a fair bit. Bass is yellow. Nobody likes the color yellow. Guitars. What color are guitars? Green. Vox. What does the Vox throw? Wow. Okay. So Vox, well, I'm assuming maybe I'm gonna put the throw in the scream. I'd imagine they're all screams. I'm not even gonna bother. Vox. What color is Vox? Purple. What is Oz? There are no Oz in here. Let's get rid of that. There's choir. I'm going to go ahead and remove the reverse snare. And the crow. Although I bet this song would be sick with the crow. So, choir. These are sound effects. So, I'm going to keep the reverse snares, the cymbals, the piano. I'll separate the piano. And then impacts. So I'm going to get strings and piano out of there. SFX. And this is a really icky color. And then piano and strings. Keys and strings. Let's just do keys and strings. And this I will make let's do orange. I think that's orange. Okay, I am going to get rid of the groups, the buses right now. We don't need that. And let me clean these up. Bass, SFX. And then I don't need any of the groups right now. Not in here. Because I have them here. So from here, we'll actually have that, and I will have the mix bus separated. I don't need that up right now. I always make my mix bus pink. Keys and strings were orange. SFX were the yucky color. Box was purple. Guitar was green. Bass is yellow. Drums are blue. Now I have a general layout. There's mad dogs in here. Okay. Now, also because this is, I think, my first time going live ever, there might be room noise and stuff because I haven't spent the time I probably should have going through and setting up like VST plugins and stuff on Cubase or on OBS to handle things. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with guitars because guitars are fun. Okay. So just looking at these, let me zoom out on the waveform just a little bit. Oof. No, not oof. That's okay. They're just very, very edited. That's pretty tight. These are separate takes too. Because, yeah, this is all individual takes and they are very heavily edited. Let's hear what they sound like. This is just the DIs. Let me solo it. Okay. It's cool because it gives us the opportunity to do something neat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's start throwing one of my favorites. And I don't... Oh... I don't have my presets on here. They're on my laptop. So let's start with a broom haul, focused. We're going to roll back on the gain a little bit. We're going to roll back on this. We're going to roll the presence up to about 6. And then I'm going to do something risky. I am going to drop the output. I'm going to crank this and go 1. There you go. Now, let's solo just that. I'm sorry, it won't be loud. Okay, and because this seems to be like the main driving guitar, this isn't... Yeah, these are like building rhythms and stuff. Because this is the main driving guitar, I'm going to give it a little bit more brightness than I wood. All right. And you know what? Let's bring the hex drive in instead. Let's I'm going to loop a small section. And just dial it in. Don't really need too much of the gate. And I should have listened a little bit better, but we're going to leave that there for now. And I'm going to drag this over. Check this out. I'm going to hit play. You're going to hear both of these tracks. And then I'm going to pan them because currently you're hearing them straight down the middle. And I think actually before I even do that, let's get some of my metering and my mix bus on. Don't judge my mix bus. What's your fucking mix bus? I'm gonna leave it for there right now. When I start getting into having the whole drum kit in, and we have a lot of like spatial things, you know, Tom 2 is to the right, and you know, the panning and stuff with those like transient driven instruments, then I'll probably go linear phase, because then you start getting phase cancellation. Now what this is doing, and it's not going to be a big deal right now, but I have cut everything below 115 hertz out of the sides, mid side. So it's what's different between the left and right speaker. When you're listening in stereo, whatever sounds are coming out of both speakers at the exact same time, that's the mid. Whatever's different between them, that's the sides. So when I pan these, they will share frequency similarities between the two, and those frequency similarities will be in the middle, right? The difference is, because it's two different guitar takes at the same time, panned hard right and left, those will be on the sides. So any frequencies that are different between the sides, I am cutting everything below 115 out of that. Really what that does is that frees up a lot of real estate and energy in your low end, because you'll see once we start getting further into this mix, and it won't be in tonight's session, you'll see that the low end is always the bane of everyone's existence. And another thing that I do, I am going to mix into a bus compressor. I'm going to, this is metal. I'm going to end up getting a little bit more aggressive with the attack, probably. We'll see. And don't think that I'm going to turn the sidechain on. A lot of times I will automate the sidechain filter, so this ignores everything below under a point. A lot of times I'll do that on the kick. It just depends. I'm going to, let's just be lazy. We're going to leave it at a 4-to-1. And I don't have any drums right now, so this isn't going to bother that. Okay, so here's both guitars coming straight down the middle. Then I'm going to pan them and play it again. And panned. Okay, so I'm gonna make a bold. I will end up changing some of these. The next two guitar tracks, I'm gonna use my other favorite amp from Neural, and it is, for some reason I don't think it put it under. Oh, it did. I'm gonna use the NTS. This thing is a bad mamma jamma. Okay. Let's go with, oh, sure, let's start there. I'm sure it sounds good. I made it. Okay. Okay. So let's hear it. Okay, so this is another one that I am going to bring the output and boost the master. It's a little nasally. That is probably the grind. We'll leave that off for now. Okay. And I am going to do the same thing here. We're going to use that on both. Let me just check the griff. Let me save that preset. Danny. Chug. One. Sure. Okay. And then I'm going to pan these. Now let's put all that together, these two. Okay. Do you hear what I hear? Let's link these. Because I want to bring the output down a little bit. We don't need to be that intense with it. Okay. And the next one. So I think I'm going to use the nameless. That sounds phasey. Is that the same recording? Did they just double it? No. I'm sure no one's watching, so. Okay. It's hot in here. So these are not the same, but oh yeah, they're different. Okay. I am going to do myself a big favor here. And I am going to bring all of this down so I don't have to solo everything else. And I honestly probably should go through and start cutting the tracks that don't even have audio. Okay. I think one of these guitar lead doesn't have audio. And for guitar lead, I am also going to use the Fortin NTS. But let's give it a cool preset from factory. Plain and simple. Sure. That actually kind of sounds cool. Okay. So, let's hear the guitars as they came. And then so, before I move on to the next thing, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll probably end up doing this per channel. Actually, let's do this first. So, I am going to... You don't need anything below, probably in this case with these guitars, 100 hertz is safe. And then on the lead one, I could probably go down even lower, and I'll show you why that matters. Because it's a lead. We shouldn't have any low energy. Look at all that energy around 100 hertz. So, if I cut that, first off, let's give it a tighter ring. And then the rest of them, I'm going to do the same thing, but a little bit lower. I'm not going to go as high. So let's go ahead and set these to 36. What did I do? Okay. And let's set these all up to about 100. And let's come to a fun section. Okay. Let's go into drumland. All right. It's actually, look at that. Nobody was there to call me out and tell me that I wasn't sending things. Are any of these bust? Yeah, okay, they're bust. Before I do that, Let's get a multi-band compressor on here for the chugs. Let's find some chugs. There's chugs in here. Okay, I do not want everything triggering it, especially up there. So I am setting the multiband compressor, its triggering circuit, free, and I'm setting it to only trigger when there's a buildup in here. I'm going to make it a really fast attack and release, so it immediately clamps down. So that way you don't end up with like an over the top buildup of that mud that you kind of want it to be a little tame so it punches. All right, I'm okay with that. The only thing is that other amp that I'm using is a little jarring when it comes in. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'll do it in a minute. But because I don't want to hear, I just want to work on drums. Let's go to the drums. And let me do some snare top, snare room, snare bottom, snare verb. And then there was a kick sub. This color's... It's kind of hard to look right at this. Much better. Okay. What's bananas? Bananas. Bananas. Derp. All right. Going to give these their own bus. This can be mono. We're going to send it to the drums. And this is going to be a kick bus. So let's bring... Nope. Not used to this keyboard. Oh, what the hell did I do? Ha ha ha. Just kidding. This is the kick. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the snare. And I'm pretty sure there's no snare verb. Yeah, there isn't. So let's go ahead and just get rid of that. Is there anything else that is in here? We don't have a bell. That might just be bleed through from something else. China left. Okay. My dog is having a good dream. Okay. Of course, as soon as I put the mic down there, she stops. Uh, all right. That's gonna be snare bus. Let's bring the snare up. Okay. So there's some cymbal bleed on these. So I'm gonna use a plugin called Silencer. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Select the kick. And then no more cymbal bleed. I'm getting a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the snares, but I am going to be, I'm going to use Steven Slate drums trigger on these, and I'm going to replace those, or at least blend them with samples. Silence. Silencer. Oh, you know, if I had just held... Okay. So, snare top, snare bottom, and then snare room. I will honestly I'm just going to go ahead and do away with it because I'm going to use my own reverb to do that. So snare top, snare bottom, and let's... let's hear it without all those cymbals. You can hear the kick. Whoosh. Hell yeah, brother. All right, let's go back to the kick for a minute. And let's just do a little bit with the kicks I've got. I'm still getting the tiniest bit of snare, so I'm gonna roll out. Okay. Do I want to do the processing individually, or do I just want to do it on the kick bus? I'm going to do it on the kick bus. I'm going to save myself some time. So let's pull up the handy dandy channel strip. Let's get a little bit of compression on there, although this is already very, very heavily compressed, but what am I even doing if I'm not giving it a little bit of compression? We'll start at 4. We'll leave the release, and I'm just going to feather in 3, maybe blipping 6 dB of attenuation. Okay. Giving us a little bit more like sustain on the kick drum, which with fast kick drum you don't really want, so I'm not really adding a whole lot, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's not really doing much of anything, so I'm not going to bother with it. Let's see what a priject does. These are super cool. I'm going to, before I even do this, I'll show you essentially what a priject is doing. You see how we have a boost and attenuate? You set your frequency, your low frequency, so I'm just gonna hit play. Okay, we can see our fundamentals about 60 on the nose. So we set that at 60. Okay. Now what this is ultimately going to end up doing is we're going to have a boost. It's going to be a little bit wider. Where's the bandwidth? Bandwidth. So I'm keeping it relatively sharp, right? So it's more like this, right? So it'll boost, and then when you attenuate, it doesn't attenuate that frequency. It's not like it's fighting against it. It's actually going to attenuate just above it, like that. So that's essentially the EQ curve I'm getting with this. Now, obviously, these emulated plugins, they emulate actual hardware. So there is some mojo. It does some other things under the hood that I haven't run it on Plugin Doctor, so I don't know exactly what else it's doing. It's adding some saturation, I'm sure. But yeah. Ooh. Okay. So let's find a spot. Let's say right here. And so 12.1. Sure. We can add a little bit. I am going to add a little bit of high energy on this. So let's go in the, let's try the 4K. There's a nice click there. Okay. I may add a little bit of saturation to that, but I'm not going to do it right now. Right now, I'm going to do the fun stuff. Load the trigger. Okay. I'm a big fan of the dream kicks. I'll let you hear them. Okay. So, now essentially what this is going to do, you'll figure it out in 2 seconds. I'm going to tune them. It's in tune. Okay. I like it. I'm going to bring the detail down a little bit in case there's... It's pretty uniform across the board. But... And the cool thing about this plugin is you can spend a lot of time doing it, but you can trigger a whole drum kit, one drum file, off of, multiple instances of this, right? So you would set up, like the kick, you would set up the high cut, and you would bring it down just to where it's only looking for the kick drum's fundamental, right? And then you, between that and the sensitivity and detail, you go through and you get it to only trigger on the kick. It's only going to trigger on the frequencies that the kick is boosting in those fundamentals. Yippee-ki-yay. And then you add another one and do the same thing with the snare, which we are about to do right now, because I am going to add the snare back. Now, just so you remember, before, after. Okay. Snare. Okay. There's a ringing in here. Is it in this too? No. I'm going to cheat. All the old people are about to lose their minds if any old people ever see this. It's right there. It sounds like the snare head is like rebounding, and there's like a flub, like a not high pitch, but like Okay. Also, another thing I'll do is I am going to low pass the kick. It sounds counterintuitive, but I'm going to low pass it at like 30. Or high pass, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this, except for I'm going to come up a bit higher. I'm going to come up to about, I don't know, let's, I'll probably change it when the sample's on it. I don't want to lose the body of the snare, but I also want to free up that low end for that real estate in the low end. Okay. Let's tame some of the snare wires. I'm going to go ahead and dip out. It's not bad. I'm not even going to. I'm going to compress it though, because it's a little wobbly. And you know what? I'm going to do something I don't normally do on this one. We're going to use the purple audio. No, we're not, because I didn't activate it. Do I not have my license key in? Bastard. Okay. Then I'm going to use yeah, let's use a distressor. Because this has a cool distortion circuit. Now there are no there isn't a lot of low end energy, but the detector circuit you can put on a high pass. So on the kick, that's really good. I may end up doing parallel compression on this kick. It just depends. If I want a little bit extra, I'll give it that. But I would use you can use the high pass. And I don't remember where this bell curve boost is. Look it up. I don't remember where it is. And I'm going to go down to a 3-to-1. Now this is, again, I do not remember the numbers, but this is a really fast compressor. Like it clamps down in picoseconds. So I don't want that. I do want that transient. But what you got to think about, and I didn't even check, is to see if there's any phase cancellation between the snare top and snare bottom. So just with physics, the drumstick is hitting the top snare top. That sound is going up to the microphone that's probably 4 inches away or less. Now, that air pressure is building up underneath and rattling those snare wires, so there's that distance traveled, and then that sound from the snare wires is going to the mic. So you often end up with with phase issues, and you just flip the polarity on the snare bottom or top, whatever, and it doesn't always get it perfect, but it's pretty close. You can often, let me go over here. You can, no, let's not do it right here. Those aren't hard hits. Let's do this. Let's work on this snare with some hard hits. So, it's not the greatest phase, but general trend. Because it's the same hit. And you'll have this issue with the overheads because the snare mic is picking up the snare hit, but that sound is also traveling an extra few feet up to an overhead mic. So you got an issue with that. So let's just see if, let's use Span. My old friend Span. Someone already fixed it if there was, but I will show you. I'm going to flip the polarity on it and you'll hear the difference. So you lose some of the like, ugh, to it. It's not very much, but it's there. And in the context of the mix, that can possibly be huge. That's the funny thing about this, is a very small decision made now can have really big impact later. And I think that's kind of like the lottery of doing, of mixing, because something that you do that's really small now could completely change the entire vibe of the mix later on. And I mean, I'm sure there's some psychopaths that are like so calculated that they remember like, oh, I boosted, 350 hertz with a bell curve, at this one point, and like that's why this guitar sounds different, even though I boosted it on a snare or boosted it on a synth or like whatever, like the way that things interact. It's weird. Anyway, it's weird. Whatever. Whatever. So now it's kind of like feeble. The snare sounds kind of feeble. Oh, I didn't even really look at the compressor. Let's dial in this compressor. Okay. There's that binging sound. Bing. I don't like it. Let's get rid of this. Let's just. Okay. I don't really like this snare. I don't mind the snappiness of the. You know what, dude? I'm gonna waste too much time trying to be happy with it when I could just do this will just trigger it. Big surprise, I am also a fan of the... And then... I don't think... No. Jesus. It's too much ring. I just want to find a little too much body. I just want to find a snare. Still too much ring. Okay. So... That's kind of got a nastiness to it. Okay. And let's tune that. Okay. Let's be smart about this. Because I'm already having trouble hearing it. Gonna cheat so you can't see it. Okay. I'm not even sure I'm gonna blend it, so that may have made no difference. But on the piano roll, we were right about here. G sharp, third G sharp, and third A. So now I actually am totally cool with that at the moment. But just to refresh. Two. Okay, no, you get the point. Now, let's I don't, it doesn't, there's no Tom 1, Tom 2, Tom 3. Tom 2 top, Tom 2 bottom, Tom 3 top, Tom 3 bottom, Tom 4 top, Tom 4 bottom. Is it in something else? Am I crazy? No, there was no other Toms. Okay. I guess there was just never, it's gonna be a mystery. So, I'm gonna bring the guitar back in. And I know that fundamental for the snare was at about 220 hertz. So I am going to bring another multiband compressor on. I am going to put it right around 220 hertz. Okay. I'm going to fast attack. We're going to make it an external trigger. I'm going to side chain a snare. Oh my god, it's still in that order. If I don't see snare top, there it is. Sure. Okay. So now what it's going to do is every time that snare hits, it's going to duck the guitars out a little bit. And just a reminder of what the guitars sounded like. Oh, hold on. So this is where I will, because I mix kind of top down, so I'm going to pull the drums up and we are going to, I know the kick and snare are where I want them to be. Let me get rid of those guitars for a second. And then the snare. Okay. Now, let's go back to the guitars. Oh. Okay. Let's turn the guitars back on and bring them up. I hate when that happens. Now I just pulled these out. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have some P-comp on that kick. And probably the snare. Now let's get to the lead part, leading into it. We'll go here. Nah, I don't care about that. Okay. And the last thing I do tonight, we're going to throw a multi-band compressor on there. And we remember that that kick drum was right at about 60. Yeah, fuck it. We're going to go a little bit higher. Same thing. We're going to make room on that bass, and this will affect, because I'll end up duplicating, and I will put an bass amp sim on there and some other stuff. So we're going to use that kick. Same thing. Okay. And before I shut this down, let's hear what the vocals sound like. I bet you it's like operatic singing. Let's solo it, so we're not getting killed.
Looking the chains, isolated past mistakes, where I write failures until extinction! Looking the chains, isolated past mistakes, where I write failures until extinction!
Okay. Cool. It's a good start. I forgot what this was called. So, there we go. And with all those amp sims, how are we sitting on DSP? Psh, we got so much room. We're good. Cool. Alright. That was fun. We'll continue another night. Okay, bye.